been the Constitution of the United States of America. By some, he's been called controversial.
I'll keep my freedom, I'll keep my guns, try to keep my money and my religion too. Now keep in mind that some of my guests have been approached by Homeland Security or FBI saying, why are you going on the Clay Douglas show?
My message to those guys, if they're listening this morning, is go get a cup of coffee. Maybe you'll learn something.
We both took the same oath, to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that. I'm going to keep my big V8, keep my friends the same, keep the government out of my business, and y'all can keep the change.
He is the free American, Clay Douglas.
We know what we need. We know who to blame.
Catch the Free American Hour, weekdays at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern.
I'll keep the USA and y'all can keep the change.
For the podcast and more details, visit www.freeamerican.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999-8621.
Understand when freedom shivers in the cold shadow of true peril, it's always the patriots who first hear the call. When loss of liberty is looming, as it is now, the sirens sound first. Hearts of freedom's vanguard come from their simple homes to find the fire and fight. That symbolizes the full measure of human dignity and liberty.
Barbecue and the family on Friday nights. 10-lane ram on Saturday right before the morning light. There came a time I was old enough and I learned about the gun. And every night at supper time I answered to what I'd done. Some days I forgot about the way it used to be. They got no respect and no cold steel, just games on TV. A burning hell before I sell my rights away from me. It's high time we embrace the tool that keeps all men free.
Good morning, Revolution Radio listeners. The sun is rising across this great United States, and that means just straight from the heart of Texas. It is time for Clayton Douglas, Free American. Take it away, Clayton.
All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American. In the wake of the Memorial Day weekend, it's important to remember that 600,000 veterans' claims have been waiting for over 125 days to be cleared by the Department of Veterans Affairs. Nearly 900,000 claims were still waiting to be cleared as of April. So, I don't know, is this a backlog from Bush? Is this Obama's fault? But that's not exactly what we want to talk to about. My guest today is Gordon Duff, editor at Veterans Affairs, and we've got a little bit pressing issues. I think Obama just did a speech, and Gordon's going to be filling on that. He's basically a surprise admission in regards to terror talk. Keep in mind, folks, as we do this show, that I've always told you that anytime a communist regime takes over a country, they go after three classes of people in order. They go after the farmers first because they don't want you being able to feed yourself. Second, they go after the intelligentsia, anyone that's smart enough to know what they're doing. And third, they go after the veterans and police officers that might be loyal to the old regime. In this case, it would be the Constitution of the United States. Gordon, welcome.
Well, it's good to be on, Clay. And it was interesting. The president came on and spoke for 48 minutes. The most devastating speech ever made in American history, and not one soundbite came out of it other than misconstrued propaganda that he was supporting drone attacks, which of course he did quite the opposite. He did much the opposite of everything. He sat there for 48 minutes and simply told people.
Yeah, Gordon, excuse me for a minute.
Gordon,
You're breaking up pretty good on your phone there. We're getting a lot of distortion and stuff.
You understand? I'm on a 100 meg dedicated fiber line, even for my telephone. Okay.
Well, it's breaking up real bad, Gordon.
Okay, let's rerun the call. You know, we get this every time, Clay.
Okay.
Every time.
I'll call you back, Clay, and I'll drop you, then I'll give you a call.
Gordon, do Gordon. I'm coming in. All right. Drop him and call him back. Okay.
Yeah, I got him dropped there. Now we'll get him back here.
All right, folks. Gordon Duff is the editor for Veterans Today. They have a large readership, and it does seem like it happens almost every time Gordon comes on here. The information that he's putting out, top of the line.
Okay, I'm back. What's our audio like now?
Now it's great.
Much better.
Now it's great, sir.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Are we still live here?
Yes, sir. We're still live. We're still live and rolling.
I sit on the phone with Pakistan, Afghanistan, Africa all day long. I sit on Skype with them. When I try to talk with you, Clay, I can't get 15 seconds without the phone being cut off.
I don't know. Somebody told me one time, Clay.
And they've been doing. Every time the two of us get on, we are cut off, and it's been going on now for years.
Somebody told me one time, said, Clay, with the bad luck that you have, it's basically statistically impossible. You just can't have that much bad luck. And I've got brand new modems here. I've got everything. Everything's working. I've got 3 computers working here. Everything should be working just fine, except when I talk to Gordon. But
well, and I'm on a Uverse dedicated 100 meg fiber line here. Okay, we'll even tell you who the provider is. I've got fiber all the way in. This is a landline, heaven forbid.
Well, Gordon, yesterday.
How far can you go?
Yesterday, the whole station, Revolution Radio, that we're broadcasting on, the whole internet went down. There wasn't a conspiracy, I don't think. I think it was just stupidity. They cut the cable doing some construction, but the whole show was on there. I don't know, still pretty suspicious to me. But Gordon, what is the now? A couple of things I want to cover very quickly here. My one of our buddies here, Songbird McCain. The.
Oh, you mean McCain who's joined Al Qaeda? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they'd have him. They usually hire better people than that.
You would think.
The CIA hires for Al Qaeda.
Why would the CIA want John McCain working with Al-Qaeda? And why would McCain leave his drug business in Afghanistan and involve himself working for Al-Qaeda in Syria? I still want him in jail as a traitor from Vietnam.
Well,
I want him in jail for all of the POW recovery efforts that he sabotaged while in Washington. I want him in jail for betraying American veterans from day number one since he took office. He has been an enemy of American veterans.
You know, I asked him why he was in the presidential campaigns. He was stumping for Phil Gramm. I said, why are you pushing Phil Gramm? He voted for NAFTA. He voted for GATT. Why would you be pushing him? My son's an engineer. I don't care if all the factories move to Mexico. And then they threatened, his staff called me up and threatened me if I ran the story. I said, you mess with me, I'll run the story from all of his fellow POWs who, and I'll run the story about him making the propaganda films for the Vietnamese while he was supposedly in the Hanoi Hilton. They never called back.
He's the only prisoner of war that gained 50 pounds while a POW. They had to take him off the plane in a wheelbarrow. Everyone else was skin and bones coming back. Poor tortured McCain. If they hung him up by his thumbs, his arms would have come out of the sockets from his gut.
Now, let me ask you. Now, he's gone over to Syria, where Israel and is sponsoring Al-Qaeda, or Al-Qaeda, however you want to pronounce it. I think I got the proper pronunciation. And the rebels there, the anti-Assad forces, just massacred a whole village of Christians over in Syria.
Yes, that's right. That's absolutely right.
And
McCain, and these are McCain. Hey, this is McCain's operation there. He's running this. Now, we just published a photo an hour ago taken in Syria where John McCain is photographed with an Al-Qaeda commander. It's on veteranstoday.com. You go in and pick it up. He's right there with his usual friendly little scowl, standing next to one of the Al-Qaeda commanders in Syria. We have him photographed. Thank you very much, John. I call it treason, or we would say jail, 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 jail McCain, jail, 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 jail McCain, jail McCain now. Put him in prison because the man is definitely affiliated with people who are listed as terrorists. These are the same people that he's been talking about as having attacked the United States. These are the people he blames for 9/11. And of course, he's now hand in hand with them, advocating that they be given. He wants to give Al-Qaeda surface-to-air missiles.
Now, let's see. I've got a little bit of an update on 9/11 because somebody that we've talked about before, somebody that I exposed in my book, Mystery Babylon, who was running the General Noriega in Panama during Operation Watchtower that was ordered by George Bush Sr. And we talked about Michael Harari. Michael Harari, I heard now, is running the Mossad in Israel. Michael Harari murdered Colonel Catolo for revealing Operation Watchtower. Michael Harari was in Libya arranging the death of Muammar Gaddafi, and Michael Harari threw a party and bragged about engineering 9/11. Is that, am I getting good information here? Is this true?
Well, I have interviewed, and this is on another network. I interviewed people at the table with him when he admitted on September 12th while in Bangkok, Thailand, sitting at a table having breakfast with his son and Dmitry Kolozov of the Soviet 12th Nuclear Directorate. Michael Harari admitted to being operational head of 9/11. He admitted to staging the Oklahoma City bombing. He admitted to that, and he was there in Bangkok to put together a team to arrange the Bali bombings.
And
we have witness statements, and in 2007, the FBI flew a team to Bangkok, gave a lie detector test to Dmitry Kolozov while interviewing him about the statements made by Harari. Now, nothing has been done, but all of these things, there is an official investigation from the FBI. It hasn't moved forward, but when the FBI flies halfway around the world to interview a witness, they interviewed a witness specifically in an investigation of Mossad complicity in 9/11, in the Bali bombing, and in Oklahoma City. They have witness statements. The fact that they flew there means there has been an investigation, although this was done during the Bush administration, meaning that any criminal investigation would have been quashed. As, of course, the 9/11 investigation was totally quashed, and of course the 9/11 Commission demanded a grand jury to prosecute people who lied before the commission, up to including General Myers, Vice President Cheney, Secretary Rumsfeld. All were cited to lies of fact and lies of omission. Now, the key point, of course, is that no senior official of the Bush administration was ever sworn in. None took an oath. But that doesn't free you from obstruction, conspiracy, and treason charges. It only frees you from perjury charges, which is they saw as low-hanging fruit. So they all refused to be sworn in.
Now,
and then lied like dogs.
I just put up.
We never heard anything about planes hitting buildings. We never thought that possible. And then, of course, memo after memo on this. And, of course, at 9/11, there was a drill being held on 9/11 on how NORAD was going to intercept airliners that were meant to crash into buildings. It's funny, every time there's a drill over something, it comes true. I look at 7/7 in Britain. 1,500 people were involved in a drill to protect the underground system, the subway to us, from bomb attacks. And heaven forbid, they hired crisis actors to carry simulated bombs that were to be discovered. And lo and behold, now they claim, of course, that the people that they hired, their own crisis actors, switched the bombs, put in real bombs, and blew up the underground cars.
Well, shades of Boston.
From under the tracks.
Shades of Boston, huh? With the crisis actor, with the and now we've even got another one. Gee, two black Muslims from Nigeria. By the way, Nigeria is the home of all the scammers, but the FBI can't do anything about them because we don't have an extradition treaty with Nigeria. Now, two Nigerians show up in London.
I can put the chief of security from Nigeria on this call if you want. It's not hard to do. If you want to extradite anybody, I can probably. Well, I can't. You just tell me who you want extradited. I can simply conference in Security Chief Gordon Abula, and Abula will just send people to their home. And he calls me namesake because we're both named Gordon. He'll simply send somebody to their home and pick them up. And if we want them, we can put them on a plane. Now, usually when we bring people in from Nigeria on a plane, usually someone from the CIA gives them a bomb to carry So it's a concern. Anytime we can't extradite people from Nigeria because they'll all be bringing bombs with them. They go up to Amsterdam, the CIA hands them a bomb, walks them into first class on a plane without a passport, without a ticket. Now, it's one thing getting on a plane for the U.S. without a visa, without a passport. Try getting into first class on an aircraft without a ticket. I can barely get into first class with a ticket. Anyway, if it were all this funny, if it were just this simple. Now the individuals from the Woolwich bombing.
Yes, let's talk about that. The blood. You mean the guys that cut off the head and attacked and hacked a soldier to death, but no blood got on their clothes at all, and just had a bunch of red paint on their hands.
And none on the road.
None on the road.
Both were found who have been approached by MI5. The individual that was charged yesterday had been arrested in Somalia, and the British consulate got him released. So we have a strange history of these people traveling to unusual places with a lot of unusual help. Like Motala flying into Detroit, helped on a plane, helped off a plane. He wasn't the only person arrested in Detroit. He had an accomplice on the plane, and that accomplice has never been heard from. He had an accomplice at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam. That accomplice has never been heard from. Everybody has lots of accomplices. Now in the Woolwich bombing, we have accomplices from the British consulate. We'll never hear from them. We have accomplices from MI5. We'll never hear from them. I wonder if they were all just simply crisis actors. Maybe if these guys were crisis actors, because now I've never cut off anybody's head. I've shot people. I'll tell you, there is nothing worse than having to remove brains from your clothing. It's quite disgusting. I have that experience. Anyway, let's go into the Obama issue. Let me do a little bit of yelling here. Which it's good that I still care about this stuff, but I'll do it in as good-natured a way as possible. We started before the hour talking about the what is now listed as the huge scandal of Obama having 600,000 unprocessed claims. Well, first of all, 1.5 million PTSD claims alone have come from the Bush wars. 1.5 million. We have tens of thousands of Vietnam veterans who are still in processing. Now, what the VA does, of course, is what they consider processing. Now, get this very straight. Processing is like with Social Security. It's a blanket denial. This is our worst case scenario for a VA physical exam. We had an individual come in who had a head injury. 10% of his brain had been removed. So he came in for a comprehensive physical, and he was awarded a 10% disability because of 10% of his brain being removed. During the examination, the physician doing the exam, a contractor to the VA, missed one other minor issue. The same individual, when he received his head wound, also had his right arm blown off. Now, the physician apparently didn't know that most people in the military generally have right arms. So it was figured that maybe he misplaced it in the lobby, or somebody had taken it, in the car or whatever, or he could have actually looked at the medical records, but that would have involved reading past the top two lines on the page, or not being stoked up on whatever pill of the day it is that our medical profession operates on. Try going to the emergency room, take a look at a doctor there. Wonder what they're on. if you want to know where drug use is, drug use, our medical people are drugged out of their minds most of the time. I was in the VA hospital in Ann Arbor probably 6 weeks ago, kidney stone, unpleasant. Went with my wife, who's a nursing professor, and who had worked in that hospital doing a patient care study. Now, in the waiting room, I'll tell you, the nurse that was there in the urgent care center was a wonderful person. The young resident that I talked to was a nice individual. The attending physician, I was warned by the nurse, was mentally disturbed and incompetent. That was fairly normal. And of course, I received no treatment, but that's normal also. If you're not willing to get better on your own, don't go to a VA hospital. You know, I'm sitting here with a knee brace right now for a knee that pretty much gave up 5 years ago. I'm a 100% disabled veteran. I'm certainly, live on non-narcotic pain medication, which, of course, as with all of us, it touches none of this. I have a number of fairly serious injuries, and I should have had a knee replacement, well, as long as 9 years ago, it was suggested. I've been on a waiting list for a knee replacement for 9 years. I'm 64 years old. 9 years I've been waiting for medical care. 9 years. My disability compensation claim, and I'm a veteran service officer, mind you, took 12 years. Not 270 days, 12 years. I have had claims come through that I have worked that have taken 25 years. One of the first things Bush did, other than blowing up the World Trade Center, and let's get very straight, anybody who doesn't think that was done, please just go away now. You're too stupid to live. It's a little late to be that ignorant now. But one of the first things he did after the bodies started coming home from Afghanistan, other than planning the invasion of Iraq and the destruction of that country, was to gouge the funding for the VA to nothing, to appoint people with no experience overseeing the VA. The VA went broke. Facilities closed. Congress had to vote emergency funding to keep the VA alive. Claims shot to well over 1 million before veterans started coming home. The 1 million to 1.2 million of claims that were alive during the Bush administration, the majority of them were Vietnam veterans. And by the time Bush had left office, those who were awaiting claims that were processed, 50% of the successful processing of VA claims during the Bush administration, the success was the death of the veteran.
What about the drugging of the veterans? I mean, if somebody's been to Iraq, Afghanistan, or Vietnam, and they've been killing people that never did anything to us and were never a threat to the United States, I would say if they didn't have post-traumatic stress syndrome, that they would be, then they would be sick. What do you think?
Now, it's taken a long time, and only now has veterans today begun to get a reasonable penetration of the younger vets. Are they wising up? And they are now. I talk with younger vets all the time. I meet with them here, and the war was a joke. Now we still have individuals. We have a little tussle that'll be going on in Las Vegas at the Special Forces Convention that people are trying to find some kind of honor in their military service, and I just remind them of Smedley Butler. You went over there as an enforcer for a bunch of drug dealers, banksters, and oil companies. Everything you did was there. What you've done, as with my own actions in Vietnam, I'm lucky I'm not in prison as a war criminal. We all are. And we all, well, certainly our leaders should be. They should all be there. But people shot at me and I shot back. That's our excuse for ourselves there. But in Vietnam, I will tell you that we, as Marines, spoke up against the war while in Vietnam with some regularity. And what we have to live with, and I was talking with Jim Hankey about this yesterday, my Chief of Staff at Adamus. It's Colonel James Hankey, U.S. Army Special Forces. We're talking specifically about this, and he's down there in Arizona with you, by the way. But
I'm no longer. By the way, let me correct you. I am now on the Corpus Christi Bay in Texas. I'm back home in Texas after 40 years of being a self-imposed exile.
I've got friends down there. Navy Corpsman lives probably not that far from you. Of course, he spends his days playing golf. But Hanky and I went over this, and it's this fight to find some kind of honor in what you do. And the least thing we could do, this is going through Marine Corps training. In Marine boot camp, we were simply told the Vietnam War was wrong. We are in Vietnam illegally. Deal with it. Okay? That was as much respect as and every Marine was told that. So anybody that says different is a liar. We were all told we're in Vietnam illegally.
Go ahead.
We're fighting on. I'm getting some interference here, Clay. How's that?
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. You're coming in loud and clear. But let me stop you. Let me stop you for just a second, because one of our people in the chat room wanted to know if you supported or agreed with Mike Harris, an editor at Veterans Today, somebody that's been on my show many times. We all got, both of us got kind of threatened by the drug dealers in Tucson or in Arizona, but this is one of our pet Jews that really likes my show, and he wanted to know about Mike's statement, because the article appeared in the Times of Israel.
About the Times of Israel is, if you check the board of the Times of Israel is a publication headed by the leaders of Shin Bet. So the Times of Israel is not a newspaper; it's an official propaganda arm of Israel's disinformation services.
Well, I'm not sure there's any. I'm not sure there's any. There's not any disinformation here.
Okay,
he says that Mike claims that Israeli revenge squads have been killing Americans since in 2011 shooting in Tucson with Gabriel Giffords, who was done by somebody in her own synagogue, and the Zionist controlled Hollywood Zionist controlled news media acts as a conduit to this violence. Go ahead.
But isn't that? I mean, that's. I didn't think that was a secret. I mean, Zionists do control Hollywood, and they do control the long discredited media. Of course they do. And I don't have personal information about Giffords, but Mike Harris knows her. He and Gabby Giffords have been friends for some time. And if Mike says it, and someone has a problem with that, they should take that up with Mike, because Mike is a friend of Gabby Giffords. And Mike knows his way around Tucson. Now, what we wonder about is why on a Saturday at a function with a federal judge with supposedly two marshals normally with him and a member of Congress who, according to the rules of Homeland Security, there has to be an ambulance there. When a member of Congress is there, there would have to be an ambulance there, and there would have to be a police presence of at least 5 officers, that the nearest police officer was 45 minutes away by car. We timed this, and that meant the entire Tucson Police Department was probably in a bar in Phoenix. They may have walked in. But no, there's nothing. There is nothing we can depend on out of the shooting in Phoenix, the shooting in Fort Hood. These were all staged, and of course, the world knows. This is why the mainstream, lamestream news collapsed, lost all credibility. Boston. We had the FBI's photo of our surviving young would-be bomber. Their photo went through forensic analysis of him standing in front of a brick wall, and we found that it had been photoshopped. The photo that has been used in every newspaper is a Photoshop. They had him they took a photo of him at school in front of an entirely different wall, cut out the wrong size, wrong design bricks on a wall that had serious flaws in it, had a repair in it. They superimposed it and forgot to fix the flaws. So we have absolute conclusive proof. Now, if we want to talk about some difficulties with Israel, the difficulties are with me. Syria is sitting there with S-300 missiles right now, a Russian fleet offshore, sitting over a sunk Dolphin submarine, 2:30 a.m., May 2nd. The Syrians sunk an Israeli Dolphin submarine that was unloading Israeli commandos. It crash dived to a full 150 meters, which is as far down as that thing will go. It was hit with an ASROC. It's gone. It had 5 nuclear weapons on board. A Russian recovery ship was sent, that Russian fleet that came in. Well, what we had noted when we examined the makeup of the Russian fleet that moved into the Mediterranean and why there's a news blackout, because it was not a fleet. It's a recovery task force with a salvage ship and enough security for a salvage ship, and it is sitting over that Dolphin sub to recover what are Tomahawk cruise missiles. The Russians have always wanted to get a nuclear Tomahawk missile, and there are 5 nuclear-tipped Tomahawk missiles on that submarine, which is being winched up into the bay of that Russian ship as we speak. This is going on now. We also had an Israeli F-16 go down. Now, on May 4th, as a retaliation, and we had wondered why this was, that's why we had to get the story on the submarine sinking, Israel attacked Syria with a nuclear weapon. We have the film of it. We have every confirmation, and you can go to veteranstoday.com or Press TV. You can see the film, or go anywhere on the internet. But you check my version with the analysis. We had artillery coming in, including 8-inch artillery, heavy artillery. And then all of a sudden, and we have the individual frame. From 15 miles away, the entire horizon turns white. And then we have an unmistakable mushroom cloud, thousands of times larger than any of the heavy artillery explosions that were going on. And then in the mushroom cloud, we have lightning from the EMP of a nuclear explosion. Total and absolute confirmation. And now, of course, and this will be a little announcement here, President Obama had to contact Putin and come to an agreement that Israel was facing nuclear retaliation for this. Now, generally, Israel likes to claim, but if we nuke someone else, which they've done now, we have the proof, and if you have any doubt It's right there. Everyone in the U.S. military and intelligence admits it. Everyone knows it. No newspaper carries it. Hey, not just that. President Obama made a 48-minute speech, a devastating, memorable 48-minute speech that you can listen to the speech. Come on to Veterans Today, look on the top 10 articles. It'll be sitting on the right side. Listen to all 48 minutes. I have specific quotes taken out if you don't have the nerve to do this. It calls for the immediate closure of Guantanamo. But President Obama didn't keep his promise about closing Guantanamo. Well, now we find that for years he has tried to close Guantanamo. And it's not just been the Republican Party, but the Zionists on the Democratic Party have blocked every move by President Obama for 5 years to remove the prisoners from Guantanamo. Congress has maneuvered and plotted to keep Guantanamo, knowing that Guantanamo was a stain on the reputation of the United States and has destroyed our standing in the world. Congress has done this purposely, and it's the Israeli lobby that's managed it against endless efforts, and they're outlined in this speech specifically what was done. President Obama did what he was supposed to do. President Obama also acknowledged that America's rendition program during the Bush administration was a war crime, and that Americans tortured prisoners. That the opinion that
hold on here. What did I happen here?
now we're getting some feedback.
Yeah, hang on a minute. We'll get rid of that. Okay, sorry about that. Go.
Okay.
Now let me just clarify something. That explosion of that bunker buster bomb in Syria, that was a nuclear weapon, wasn't it? Is that what you're saying?
That's what everyone's saying, because it was a nuclear weapon. It made a mushroom cloud with lightning in it. No other weapon can make that. And the morons out there, and this is the morons. How you can tell you're a moron? Hold a mirror up and you can see if you're a moron. If you think it was a fuel-air explosive, if you think you simply can drop a 5-ton fuel-air explosive out over Syria, well, they have to be rolled off the back of a C-130 propeller aircraft. If you think you can fly a propeller aircraft over Syria at 250 miles an hour and hover over a target, and then, by the way, you would have seen it come down with parachutes, by the way. Oh, you would have seen it. No, we had considerable light from the artillery that was exploding around it. There were no parachutes. And, of course, a fuel-air bomb does not cause lightning.
All right, now let me just stop you for just a second, because I think we've actually had an atomic attack on us that could be traced to probably one of those 400-odd nuclear missiles over there in Dimona in Israel. But the World Trade Center, are we going along with Judy Woods, who says they were just dustified, or are we going along with Chuck, who is saying that it was an atomic bombs planted in the World Trade Centers that brought them down?
We're gonna go with atomic bomb because Judy Wood is talking about things that can't be proven at all, and we believe that Judy Wood is well, I believe she's there to discredit everyone. The 9/11 Truth Movement was long ago utterly and absolutely derailed and infiltrated by CIA and Mossad personnel. It's like the old Michigan militia. One of my friends, Thomas R. Wayne, headed one of the, there were several divisions of the, they couldn't get along, the Michigan militia, which may have had 600 members or 20,000 or 60,000, we never knew. But the last meeting, we were having a private meeting. Would all FBI informants please leave the room? And
I've always told people, Gordon.
Evacuated.
I've always
Nobody was left.
I've always told people that ask me, you know of a militia I could join? I said, if you're joining a militia, there's more than 10 people in it, and you haven't known all 10 of them your whole life. At least one of them is an FBI informant.
Well, of the people you've known your whole life, anyone that's ever been arrested for anything, or that uses drugs, or has cheated on their income tax, or that has an illegal weapon they've modified, or scratched the serial number off, or cut the barrel on, or whatever, those people have all been turned. Anyone who isn't sparkling clean, that thinks they're joining a patriotic movement, well, every person that can be gotten to, everyone that's vulnerable, has been faced with long prison terms for what they've done, plus crimes that will be invented for them, or they can go to work for the FBI. So every patriotic organization is primarily made up of FBI informants. So anytime 3 people get together and 2 of them say, let's go bomb a synagogue, well, it's the FBI, and of course, every record we have of an attempted terror attack in the United States for many, many years shows that every attack, every bomb that was supplied by the FBI. All funding for terrorists, you know, this is how they typically operate. The FBI will go to Islamic communities and seek poor, homeless, and severely mentally ill people that will attend mosque periodically. They'll approach these people. They'll groom them. They'll start pouring money into them, and then give them a bomb of some kind. And to the point of, if they're schizophrenics, start replacing their medication with M&Ms. And by the time they're totally howling maniacs talking to the voices in their head, they'll be in a car with an imitation bomb in the trunk, and 50 FBI agents will show up to make the arrest of that dangerous terrorist suspect that they found, they groomed. And this has been done over and over. We look into Oregon at the Christmas tree bombing. It's a classic, but we have seen this. Every terror arrest has been someone that was chosen by the FBI, funded by the FBI. When we look at Abdul Mohammed, the Detroit crotch bomber, mentally ill, schizophrenic, led through customs by a CIA or Mossad agent, we're not sure which. We know someone with the authority to walk someone around security with no passport, no ticket, onto a plane carrying a bomb. Of course, a phony bomb. Explosive that could never go off without a trigger explosive to use. PETN does not work. And if you can get PETN, which we're not going to discuss the MacGyver ways of making it, not on the air certainly, but if you're smart enough to make it, and this individual, of course, couldn't read. And if we wanted to talk more about Muhammad, now his father certainly was a Muslim out of Syria, but his father also oversaw Nigeria's arms industry, specifically in partnership with a series of Israeli companies. And when his son showed up missing, immediately went to the U.S. Embassy, met with the ambassador and the CIA station chief in Abuja. Immediately met with them. Who, by the way, I remember seeing them when I was there for the inauguration of President Goodluck Jonathan. And I just remember when they were coming into the inauguration, and they went through the metal detectors and got the pat down, and they were asked to stand aside while they walked me around. I just love that. That's on video, by the way. You'll be able to find that.
Now, let me ask you also. Somebody mentioned earlier.
Like that.
Somebody mentioned earlier in the chat room that we were about to go to war with Syria. That we had 20,000 troops, U.S. troops, on the border near Syria somewhere. I don't know if I believe
that.
We've got fewer than 200 men in Syria. There is no 20,000 troops. You know, the Daily Beast, and that's the Newsweek Jane Harman. And if you don't know who Jane Harman is, and I knew her husband, by the way, he was an absolutely wonderful guy. Founded Harman Kardon Audio. Great guy. Jane Harman, of course, had to resign from Congress because Jane Harman faced spy charges for her involvement in the AIPAC spy scandal. Now, she owns Newsweek and the Daily Beast. And the Daily Beast announced yesterday morning that President Obama had declared a no-fly zone over Syria. Within 1 hour, they printed a retraction. 1 hour. When they received notification from the Pentagon, Assistant Secretary of Defense, that there was absolutely no validity to the story. Of course, they got the lie into the world press. Now, the U.S. is not being involved. We have a deal with the Russians. And the Russians were allowed to bring the S-300 missiles there, which are on station now, and they can hit any plane anywhere in Israel on the runway. As soon as you come airborne, you can't hit the end of the runway, and they can just smoke you out there, which might allow the pilots to be able to hit eject as the missiles come in, and actually be close enough to home to catch lunch. And I think that's reasonable. If you're going to be shooting down F-16s, F-15Es, you might as well do it while they're still close to a good place to eat. And I think it's an extreme courtesy. Now, the Iskandar missiles are specifically designed to go after hardened Israeli targets on the Golan Heights, where, by the way, the Israelis have placed nuclear munitions on the Golan Heights. They have buried the number between 8 and 12 nuclear weapons in key areas in the Golan Heights as landmines. Now, the U.S. had done that in the Fulda Gap in Germany during the Cold War. And at the end of the war, teams had to come in and recover those. Plus, the U.S. had provisions for jumping behind Halo jumps behind Soviet lines with nuclear munitions. They did practice jumps. One of my guys who talked about Hanky was the founder of the U.S. Halo team and made 8 parachute jumps with nuclear munitions, practice jumps, obviously. But the idea, of course, that people love to put out here is that all nuclear weapons weigh 2 tons. A nuclear munition, even in the late 1960s, weighed 80 pounds. 80 pounds. Right now, our smallest nuclear weapon weighs 7 pounds. 7 pounds. A 40-kiloton bomb weighs 7 pounds. Current weapons under development right now, the goal that DARPA has been given, the Department of Energy has been given for nuclear weapon design, and this is involved on advanced uses of nanolasers. Until we can develop nuclear weapons the size of golf balls, until you can carry one in your wallet. And we're moving that direction, and we're not that far from it now. Remember, we were firing 175 millimeter and 8-inch nuclear artillery in the late 1950s. And that means that these nuclear warheads
in the late 1950s were no larger than a football. In 1978, we took the Davy Crockett, our shoulder-fired nuclear weapon, out of service. And those, by the way, we gave to Israel. And Israel put those on display for, I guess, in 1986. And they were photographed there. And those warheads were about the size of a basketball, and they were considered huge and unwieldy, the size of a basketball in 1978. What they were replaced with, and we're 3 generations past that. You know, one of these days you're going to pick up a nickel on the pavement, and it's going to blow up the entire block. Clay, where do you want to go with this?
I want to just let's go back and talk about Russia, because I've told people that this Cold War. Well, we got 5 minutes here. We got 5 minutes here while we do a break here. Let you go to the bathroom, warm the coffee up, and we'll be right back after these messages. And we'll talk about Russia.
Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
What will remain a dictatorship. Oh, be quiet. Why are you guys so anti-dictators? Imagine if America was a dictatorship. You could let 1% of the people have all the nation's wealth. You could help your rich friends get richer by cutting their taxes and bailing them out when they gamble and lose. You could ignore the needs of the poor for healthcare and education. Your media would appear free, but would secretly be controlled by one person and his family. You could wiretap phones. You could torture foreign prisoners. You could have rigged elections. You could lie about why you go to war. You could fill your prison with one particular racial group, and no one would complain. You could use the media to scare the people into supporting policies that are against their interests.
Tune in Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time for Liberation Nation with Deacon John, where America comes to hear the truth.
I know this is hard for you Americans to imagine, but please try.
Everybody's out of work, or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under their tongue. Punks are running wild in the streets, and nobody anywhere seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe. Our food is unfit to eat. We know things are bad, worse than bad. I want you to get mad. I want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman, because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime and the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
Yo, yo! Be here Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time and here at the news with Jason Brentwood. Because when it's time to crush, it's time for Jason. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs, government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Now you can share the topics that drive this the discussions of your favorite talk shows with TalkStream Live's topic-driven talk radio. List and promote real-time talk radio topics, or post the topics that you want to hear. Hot topics are tweeted and retweeted, and include simple click-to-listen audio links. The future of talk radio is topic-driven talk radio. Available now at TalkStreamLive.com.
Revolution Radio.
You don't see it, do you? How close we are to absolute chaos? The sick ones are sitting on their fat mat with eating and drinking themselves into a stupor, polluting the world without a second thought while it goes down the toilet. Nobody wants to do the nasty work. You know, the shit that we all just think about. Most good citizens are just along for the ride, and they can bitch and moan and complain about everything when it doesn't work out. Get it?
Revolution Radio, where we do the nasty work. www.freedomslips.com.
You realize you're caught in a dream. The adventure begins. Put your seat backs and tray tables in the upright position as we take a trip in the very fabric of reality. Join me, Andrew Marxus, for Adventures into Reality, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon at Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps.
Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it, I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
All right. We're back. My guest today is Gordon Duff. He's the editor of Veterans Today, combat hardened Marine that survived Vietnam, came back and is trying to tell you the truth. Now, folks, I took that oath too to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I'm proud to bring you guests like Gordon Duff. Whether you agree with us or not, everything we say is as close to the truth as we can ascertain. And I've got some books out, and I've got some videos. I'm going to talk about one of my videos right now. You can get those at www.shop.freeamerican.com. One of those videos I have is the true face of FEMA. And Gordon, I filmed the first Homeland Security meeting with Colonel John Brinkerhoff lecturing law enforcement at Sandia Labs in Albuquerque, New Mexico on Kirtland Air Force Base. We filmed it. And he's telling law enforcement now, in case of a single outbreak of smallpox in a major metropolitan area, we'll need 400,000 well-armed, well-trained, organized, and disciplined troops to control the American people, because some of them just won't line up on the parking lot to get a vaccine that'll give you a disease, just a light dose of a disease that's been wiped out in America for 100 years. And
hey, Clay, you and I have smallpox vaccinations.
Yeah, we probably do. I remember that. That was like the little. Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, I assure you, I've got one sitting here on my left arm. I can see it right now. I'm running around in a pair of. Hey, this is what I love about radio. Exercise shorts, barefoot, no shirt. Now I'm going to go outside. Check my tomato plants. One of the things here is it's about people's lives. I'm talking to you guys that are. This is up here. I'm in Ohio. We've had a couple of days of rain. It's going to maybe hit 90 today. Now I've got meetings tomorrow with. I'm heading out for meetings with the Damas Corporation. We're bringing staff into New York, and we're meeting with a couple of governments in Africa and the Middle East over oil security issues, and it's just it's a contract, and why we do what we do, and these are countries, by the way, that a couple of them that I criticize considerably, but work with, because we never stop making money until. And this is what's really sad, is that so many of our people have been forced to take jobs. We can call them mercenaries, contractors, or whatever. And at least this is that when we're doing things, and this is a Damas, which is of course a defense contracting firm, we don't run drugs. We don't kill civilians. We work openly with every government, including, by the way, the government of Israel, where I will share contracts with, and part of what we're doing here right now is I'm using Israeli engineering firms working with the Arab and African contractors, and I have no trouble doing that. I have no trouble going in and out of Israel and meeting with people, and then they'll sit at the table and, why do you treat us the way you do, Gordon? I say simply, because you're a bunch of a-holes. I think for radio words, I just assume use the other word. As a Marine, that's how I was taught to talk. And I can tell you the response I get from, and these are people I've known for many years. I mean, other than that, why do you do it?
Now, let me stop you right there, because I'd like to ask you. I just put a video up on about 9/11 up on where we've actually got a Jewish reporter, Bernstein, I believe, Bernstein.
Well, you understand that 30% of the staff at Veterans today is Jewish.
He's pointing the finger at Israel for pulling off a 9/11, and I've told people about the fact that I've got when they tried to kill me. That was right after George Bush made the announcement that he was going to allow the NSA to tap everybody's phones. Well, they didn't. NSA didn't tap anybody's phones. That was two Israeli companies, Amdocs and Converse, that got the contract to tap our phones.
And their companies, by the way, I've worked with. Let's be clear about some of this stuff here, about who some of us really are.
Okay, well, wait a minute. Let me finish my thing. I've got this video.
Wait a minute. Hey, Clay, who's the host of this show? Is it me or you?
Well,
wait a minute.
You're one of those people that I get a lot of rest here. You know, I don't have to monitor it like I did yesterday. But I wanted to mention the fact that Colonel Brinkerhoff said we're in for a long war. It may go longer than the Cold War, because the enemy is weak. The enemy doesn't have helicopters. He doesn't have planes.
What you're saying is the term you're using is that's called asymmetrical warfare.
Okay.
Where you have a side that one of the things, let me jump in as a Vietnam veteran and give a couple of kudos to our people that I wish were never fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan, but I support and care for all of these troops as much as pretty much anyone. Well, with the exception, we have some people like Chuck Palazzo, Bob Rosebrock, and others, Bob Walsh, turning out of Battle Creek, Michigan, and many others who dedicate their entire lives to the service of veterans. And frankly, I dedicate much of my time, along with my good friend Lee Wanda. We have a plan in place, and we have the funding that the IMF is sitting on right now. But I have a funding guarantee. When the IMF releases the money as required by the American courts, I will have enough money to employ every veteran in the United States, every single one. Not only will they not be homeless, they will not be unemployed. And we will provide all of the shortfall where the Department of Veterans Affairs has not been able to help, and it's not perfect. I look at veterans housing projects. We got a senatorial candidate out of Nebraska, Bob Kraus, and we look at putting together a facility there, and we have to recognize that these younger veterans who have done 6, 7, we don't know how many tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, many of them on medication, that these people have damaged lives, and we have to put them back together, not just them, but their families, and this is what we're dedicated to do. Other statement about Israel, one of the reasons, and I get more attacks, by the way, from neo-Nazi organizations. Now, here's one of the things we had Mike Harris do. I had received a number of vicious attacks, and please, I love vicious attacks. If you want to do anything, put up a website and criticize me. Name is Gordon Duff, Gordon. Most you're too stupid to know this. O-N, D-U-F-F, 4 letters. Get it? Spell it right. Call me anything you want, please. But just give me whatever publicity you can so that people will come to get the truth. I don't care. Because, frankly, all you have to do is do a Google search. And if you want to find out who the 500-pound gorilla is here in the media in the United States, right now, it's me. And I'll tell you, I'm a PTSD vet. I don't even like getting on an airplane. That I'm on radio at all. I'm sitting here on a double espresso with, I don't even want to know what my blood pressure probably is right now. I don't enjoy doing this. I surely don't get paid for doing it. But we're here.
You got me excited there.
Point.
Go ahead.
Anybody that talks on the radio, I'm the only one that runs Veterans Today. Adamus Corporation runs the largest private intelligence network in the world. The largest. I don't have conjecture. If I want to know about what goes on in Lebanon, I call my people in Lebanon. If I want to know about Syria, I call my people in Syria. If I want to know about Iraq, I call my people there. Or in the UAE. Or in Yemen. I have people there. Or Egypt. Or Kenya. Uganda. Somalia. Singapore. Pakistan. Afghanistan. Certainly in Russia.
Okay, back to Russia. Let me stop you right there. Let me talk about Russia, because what I've said, this Cold War that we had, I believe that was nothing but a scam. The Russian people have never been our enemy. But the
Let me
Bolsheviks
tell you
were.
where the divide
Go
is
ahead.
here. Clay?
Go ahead.
Clay, I can run this down right now. We are at war right now. There's a couple things that need to be gotten out. This is whatever truth you're going to get right now. These are the sides as they are aligned now. President Obama, Vladimir Putin, Assad in Syria, Iran on one side. The Republican Party, the Zionist and the Democratic Party, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Britain, and France on the other side. Siding with Obama is the majority of the command of the United States military, including, of course, the Secretary of Defense, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and all the leaders in the Pentagon. And me. Oh, and what? Yes, I'm siding with Iran. I'm siding with President Obama. I'm siding with President Obama and Vladimir Putin. And right now with Assad, and I'll tell you, I was never friendly with Assad. But after what's going on there, that every scumbag on the planet is now in Syria. And the Syrian army, I will tell you, and Hezbollah are grinding them into the ground as we speak. These criminals, and what they're doing, they have wiped out entire villages. We have reliable reports from Syria that as they move into a village, they take all the young women, turn them into whores, kidnap them. Every village the rebels have taken, they are doing exactly what the Japanese had done in China. They have come in as criminal gangs, and the people of Syria are fighting back. The Turks are deeply involved, and of course, helping run this criminal organization, as we know, is Senator John McCain. Now, that McCain, and this is what Kevin Barrett had pointed out, of course, is that McCain has now joined Al-Qaeda. Well, McCain had always been with Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda has always been. And I had traced Al-Qaeda's roots back to the Gladio operations run by the CIA in Europe from the 1970s and 80s. And frankly, we have others who are tracking it back to something even more sinister, to major world criminal organizations, secret criminal organizations that are expressed today visibly in the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergers. They're certainly expressed through the Trilateral Commission. The one who's jumped ship on things, who has more or less trying to undo the damage he had done earlier in his life, is the big new Brzezinski. And he's certainly come over with us. But he was a key part of putting these mechanisms together. And with all his intelligence, and this is a brilliant guy, had failed to see the monstrous thing he had put together. And this monstrous thing, frankly, I'm finding, a lot of people don't like Michael Shrimpton or Benjamin Fulford. But we are finding significant truth in what people think are the crazed ramblings of these two people who may well be visionaries. And they get a lot of resistance. But Shrimpton, of course, is... they are after Shrimpton. The Brits are trying to put him in prison right now for, frankly, for reporting a nuclear threat against the Olympics. Let's go back to my issue about Obama. You were talking about the eternal war. Well, please, May 23rd, 2013, Obama talks for 48 minutes. Let me apologize in advance. The speech is full of hyperbole, baloney. Inside that speech, and this is how people have to do things nowadays, no one can talk straight from the cuff, but whatever you'll hear during your lifetime, you will have heard in that valuable because it was boycotted by every news service. The president stated this categorically, that democracy in the United States did not survive 10 years of war. The president requested that Congress withdraw the blanket authorization, the standing blanket authorization of use of force be withdrawn. That use of drones be put under direct control. Now, we have found out that now that every drone mission has been authorized by Congress. They were briefed on every single mission, let's say every mission that wasn't specifically tied to war zones under military command in Afghanistan or Iraq. But all of the drone attacks, the president declared the official policy of the United States is that no organization of any kind, be it police, military, FBI, Homeland Security, that no organization can ever fly an armed drone over the United States. The president declared an executive prohibition on the use of any drones, and there was a reason for doing this. I should say this, because they're up there. The president declared a prohibition, did this on national television. But how many people listened to this? It was never quoted. A prohibition, no armed drones. Obama put a stop to it. Obama declared that the war on terror is over, that we have no evidence that there is a worldwide conspiracy of terrorists of any kind, that we have had minor random acts of terror, and calling them a war and keeping an authorization to send troops all over the world has to end, that no president should have that power, and that he asked Congress to relinquish the power of the President of the United States to send troops to war. All of this was in a speech. Everything you out there have ever asked for. Let me scream right now, quietly, albeit. When I hear the extreme right, and let's be honest, it's the Bolshevik, totalitarian, drug-dealing right, and the extreme left, and I could say it's the Zionist left, the fruitcake left. Well, there is no real left. You know, there are very few liberal activists that aren't bought and paid for. Well, the extreme left and the extreme right are both attacking the Obama administration for moves it is now made to restore the Constitution. The moves to restore the Constitution were announced on May 23rd. The limitation of presidential power, the ending of war, and the president himself, the one that everyone has to be so cool. You have to hate the Negro president. Well, don't have a clue. Now here's where, and this is Jeff Renth pointed this out with me the other day. Part of the undertext, the subtext of admissions during this talk is that the President of the United States admitted that the President of the United States is relatively powerless. That the ability of drug money, and they used to sneak drug money into the country, but now with the Supreme Court and Citizens United, it just floods in overtly. All you have to do is pay $300, set up a Delaware corporation. You can move $1 billion worth of drug or gambling money. Sheldon Adelson spent $100 million in trying to rig a presidential election, and it didn't work.
Now I've got Orly Tatich. I've got Orly Tatich coming on my show this next week. Of course, she's been on Obama for the birth certificate thing. Personally, I believe Obama may have been actually fathered by someone in this country by the name of Frank Marshall Davis. But what you're telling me, I mean, I was fairly comfortable being labeled a right-wing extremist.
Interesting point. Where was Tate when the Constitution was suspended habeas corpus was suspended, this individual was silent. When we invaded Iraq, someone who's silent. Someone who's never said a word about 9/11.
Yes.
Someone who's never said a word about $100 billion worth of drugs. Never said a word about the destruction of the American economy. Not one word about anything that involves the American people, but everything that involves the policy and wishes of our Zionist masters. And why would the biggest gangsters on the planet Earth want to attack the President of the United States unless the President was just accident? The President wouldn't have the enemies he has in the press, and it's continual. The people we all hate. This is what I really enjoy. If you know that the press lies continually, then why in the name of heaven would people run around and talk about things that they heard in the press? Here's an interesting point here. I brought this up with Lee Wanta on the radio. With John Stokes earlier in the week. The last legally elected president of the United States, legally elected, is Al Gore.
Yes.
Now, wait a minute. Al Gore is a total fool and idiot, isn't he? Is Al Gore a total idiot and fool? Is he a crook? He's a criminal, isn't he?
You can say that about somebody that I heard that from the press.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you're supposed to, if you're going to be hip, one of the mindless little conspiracy freaks out there, Al Gore is no good. He's an idiot. He's a fool. And why is he a fool? Who exactly told you that? You mean you don't know? Well, give the reason. Al Gore invented the internet. Really, did he say that? No, he didn't. And, of course, every time we've seen an Obama birth certificate, it's been photoshopped. And funny, nobody in Kenya. And, I have meetings scheduled with President Kenyatta there. I'll ask him if perhaps he can look into Obama's birth. But Kenya's a nation I work with on a daily basis. And funny, but nobody in Kenya believes that Obama was born there. Nobody does. Because it's really quite simple. You're a white woman, all right? You're going to have a mixed-race child. Will you have that child in Hawaii, where mixed-race children, of course, that's a cafe au lait, as we say, coffee with milk, society? Would you have gotten in a plane and gone to Biloxi, Mississippi, where, of course, you would have been burned to death in your bed? Would you have gone to colonial Kenya, where you would have had this child in a British hospital? As soon as they saw that child, that would be the last care you would have gotten. Or would you have had that child in a hospital? Or would you have had that the child in an American hospital? Now, if you're expecting a child, exactly how would you have gotten on an aircraft and flown halfway around the world? Why would you want to have a child in Kenya? There's no record of any of this. None. There would be no reason for it. None. Other than, frankly, wild idiocy. And then, of course, we have John McCain, who was born in Panama. And the Romney family, of course, the Romney family renounced their citizenship to the United States, renounced it. In 1907, Romney's father came into the United States as an former governor of Michigan, George Romney, came into the United States as an illegal alien. Mitt Romney and never, by the way, never achieved American citizenship. Never. So, when you talk about the children of illegal aliens trying to take from the United States, no one has taken more from the United States than Mitt Romney. The anchor baby of illegal aliens who renounced their citizenship to the United States, renounced it. Treason. Renounced their citizenship. snuck into the United States, never signed the required Edwards Act loyalty oath. And of course, Romney is personally responsible. Those thousands of bank accounts, I'll tell you, members of the press, and certainly many members of Congress are sitting on those bank accounts, all managed out of Bain Capital offices in Cuba. And during the election, of course, we got documents out of Romney's FBI file, including letters from Raul Castro to Romney on Cuban Ministry of Defense stationery, photographs of Romney in Cuba with his girlfriend. These are published. Oh, I didn't hear about it. Well, millions of people saw them, especially those who cared, members of the Cuban community in the United States, who were deeply incensed in having one of Castro's business partners, having the money launderer for the Bush crime cartel in the White House. No wonder Sheldon Adelson would have spent $100 million on this. So, veterans today, yeah, we're a wild conspiracy site. We support the President of the United States. We support the United States Constitution. We support the U.S. military. We are directly behind our Secretary of Defense, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. We're behind the government of the United States, arrayed against us. Our Israelis, John McCain, Songbird John McCain, the Mexican drug cartels, and criminal gangs, the criminal bankster gangs. And if you're one of those clever few conspiracy freaks out there, and where do you get the conspiracies from? The conspiracies you will see in the totally controlled news. You've had, gosh, I don't even know how long we've been on. The only truth you're going to hear from Clay, you're going to hear it from me, Mike Harris, Kevin Barrett, Jeff Rentz. You're going to hear it from only a few Americans, Jim Fetzer, certainly Preston James. Come to Veterans Today, and if you haven't done this, read everything that Dean Henderson has put up, or Trowbridge Ford. Start catching up, and I know it's boring, but start catching up with the real world you're living in. Because if you are living like most Americans, you are living a cartoon existence. Oh, the evil Al Gore, he did this, he did that, and who says? John McCain, he was a war hero, he was shot down. Well, the only successful damage that John McCain is responsible for, according to Colonel Earl Holland, McCain is responsible for 60 American planes being shot down over North Vietnam. And, Clay, isn't there something about John McCain and the USS Forrestal?
Yes, sir. I believe that's where he blew up the guy in front of him.
Yep.
Almost.
It's actually the guy behind him. McCain fired his afterburner with a plane behind him as a joke and cooked off missiles. While on the flight deck, 168 sailors died out of what he thought was a practical joke. But when your dad's an admiral, and that's of course like Senior Bush here. When your dad's a United States Senator, and you bail out of your plane, leaving 2 crew members there to crash into the sea, and the plane, according to the people in the plane behind him, that Bush's plane was never hit. He just simply drowned his 2 crew members, was taken back to his aircraft carrier, and then immediately transferred before he could be tarred and feathered and thrown off the fantail, which was the plan at the time. Now, this was a young man who was extremely unstable, someone that put himself in harm's way, and I credit him for that. But we have made heroes out of cardboard Lotharios. And, the heroic, let's see, Rumsfeld had to get out of the military before Vietnam. Cheney took continual deferment through the entire Vietnam War. You should actually look through the Republican Party. And then, of course, we have John McCain's history. We have Colonel Earl Hopper. Now, the internet is being scoured. There was a 6-part video by Colonel Earl Hopper, a U.S. Special Forces intelligence officer, who lost his son flying over North Vietnam, who outlined exactly what the records, military records, showed of McCain. John McCain is not in prison now because John McCain, and catch me on this, Gordon Duff says this, John McCain has a presidential pardon. John McCain has a presidential pardon specifically so that he was not prosecuted for crimes committed while a prisoner of war in North Vietnam. And of the original crew at Veterans Today, Colonel Ted Guy, and that's a 3-war ace, specifically filed charges with McCain's commanding officer while McCain was a prisoner of war, filed charges with the Department of Defense against John McCain for conspiring against the United States, for aiding the enemy. Above it, McCain, of course, you'd wonder why they have a statue to him in North Vietnam, or Vietnam as they call themselves now. It'll always be North Vietnam. And then, of course, those of us who were POW activists, and hundreds of POWs were never repatriated. And it was John McCain's given task to make sure that no living POW was returned to the United States. And those of us who were activists in the POW movement through and up to when we have a good idea of when they were all executed, in and around 1992, the last POWs, according to our records, were killed. In about 95 or so, the records of Nixon and Kissinger were released. There were taped conversations showing that they were aware that hundreds of POWs had been abandoned. They spoke openly of it, and those tapes, of course, that were released, that was mentioned one day in news stories, you can't even find, in news archives, you can't even find those stories.
Let me ask you this, were those last 2 POWs the ones that were executed by Colonel Bogreich?
No, the POWs had been sent to members of the Communist Party, had taken them, distributed them around because they were afraid that the U.S. was going to try another effort to free them. So they were sent to small prisons that were actually set up in the homes of individuals, and they went door to door. And so we have been told by knowledgeable sources and murdered the last of the POWs, where they had been distributed throughout. They had been spread throughout North Vietnam, or Vietnam, as you would call it. But it was certainly in the north. And as far as live sighting goes, and I talk my good friend Jim Hanke, of course, was headed the POW reconciliation efforts when he was in Thailand, and indicates that he had numerous reliable live sightings of U.S. POWs, and when they were reported, those reports were destroyed, were suppressed, kept from the American people. They were classified and buried for decades, and they will not be released until, like, you and I are in the ground. But we had proof all along of live POWs, reliable intelligence reports, and anybody out there with any authority who wants to interview the U.S. officer in charge of those efforts, who can describe specifically those reports, I can arrange that for you very, very easily. You know, why would anybody fight for a country that walks away from its prisoners of war?
We just had the Rolling Thunder. We just had the Rolling Thunder run. I was invited to go there. I couldn't make it. I've been there several times. Rolling Thunder, put on by Artie Mueller, the dictator, and I've given them free advertising. I've given them free advertising for years in the Free American.
In 2004, I went on Rolling Thunder and with the Central Group, and we stopped. I was with Henry Sullivan, a Army medic. We had stopped in Chillicothe overnight, Chillicothe, Ohio, and the local Eagles had arranged for a dinner there for us, and we want to thank them for that. This was an election year, and anyway, we had about 220 Vietnam veterans with us. Now, I went through the entire room at the Eagles, and let's see if I can find somebody here that might have been with me. Carol, when we were in Chillicothe in 2004 with Rolling Thunder, of the 200 plus people who were on the Central, how many real Vietnam veterans were there?
You and the person we went with.
And 218 were phonies? I went through the room one by one. Yeah. The only two Vietnam veterans on the Central Drive there were Henry Sullivan, Gordon Duff. All of the rest of the Vietnam veterans who showed up at the White House to support President Bush, by the way, none of them were veterans. Not just that. We had pulled into a hotel just inside for the evening, just inside the Virginia border, and went out to dinner, came back to the hotel, and my wife and I were walking around the hotel, had a walkway for the rooms, and we had a lot of double bunking incidents there. Do you know what I mean by double bunking?
Tell me.
Rolling Thunder is pretty much the largest gay organization I know of. It should be Rolling Rainbow Thunder.
I was not aware of that, but
I can barely describe what we saw there. But one of these things, I had two guys on big Honda trikes together, and they had the door open. I don't even describe that, but more than one. Lots of hand-holding in the pool, lots of kissing. I thought I was in Hotlanta. Gay Thunder. Now, not to disparage here, but it's one thing being gay, it's another thing being a phony vet. And what we didn't have with us, and I went through this, sitting there in Chillicothe, I've got Carol with me, I've got Henry Sullivan, we're walking from table to table. And, there's a neighbor at the door. Thank you. You're on radio, by the way. You're on radio. Right now. Yeah, say hi to the radio audience.
Hi, radio audience.
hello, darling.
See, I have neighbors.
Now let me stop you for just a second. You've just destroyed my whole image of bikers and Rolling Thunder, but
you mean butt bandits?
Yeah, now I understand what double bunking. Yes, sir.
Yeah. And see, one of the first things I do, everybody's a Marine, okay? Now, most Marines, after September 1969, all Marines were only in Quang Nam province. We had left Quang Tri, the 3rd Marine Division had been disbanded, and frankly, most of the guys had been moved south. Nobody was really pulled out of the country. They were just brought into other units. I was in 1st Battalion, 26 Marines. We had a lot of guys I'd gone through boot camp with, had come down from 3rd Marine Division. A lot of them, drug problems, beaten to hell. Came down with us there, and we had been a battalion landing team, and we had not fared very well under those circumstances. Casualties were extremely high for BLTs, but had bacon, lettuce, and tomatoes. We call it special landing team, like in special education, like in short bus people. We were the Marine Corps short bus brigade, but. Yeah, I mean, they're in Chillicothe. I'm going from table to table because I'm social. For a PTSD guy, hey, I'm a real life guy. I'll sit in arm wrestle. I'll have a beer with people. Just because I run the Federal Reserve and walk with the gods, according to some people, I'm not above meeting with those little people. I go from table to table and. Who do you guys serve with? Well, I'm a vet supporter, table after table. We're vet supporters, table after table. People are the wrong age. And when I get into the right age, a very few people had been in the military but stationed in Germany and elsewhere. And then you run into the Marine. I served as a Marine. Where did you serve? Well, I can't name my unit. It was classified. What was your service number? When you went through boot camp, and we all know which platoon. We have 3 out in San Diego. We've got 3 battalions, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4-digit numbers will tell you when someone went through boot camp. You've got, and I met someone, by the way, 2 days ago here, who told me they were a Marine Vietnam veteran, and I said, oh, I was in 0311, and he said, what's that mean? 0311 is the bottom rung MOS, military operations, especially infantry riflemen, and it's 0300, 0341, I think, is machine gun or whatever. 0311 for riflemen, and I was in 0311. And if you don't know that, you weren't in the Marine Corps. Now, this is somebody, and I'm not angry or upset or betrayed or whatever that people feel they need to do this. Well, Rolling Thunder. The vast, it was the group I was with. There were not only that, they couldn't run. Some of the people were okay, but many of these people were Harley riders who were weekend bikers who had brought their little outfits out of the closet. They couldn't ride their motorcycles. They're weaving all over the place. Sullivan was hit by somebody who just couldn't control their Harley, crashed into him from behind and ran him over a guardrail. We had to put him in a hospital in Winchester, Virginia. And not only do I have phony vets, I got phony bikers as well. I know it when.
All right, let me stop you for. Let me just stop you for a second. I want to change the tone of the conversation because I think I've been reporting on all this crap for years, and I wrote books, I wrote novels about a United States in the future. I wrote it 45 years ago. I said I couldn't publish them because I had a lot of research to do. And one of those novels, I think, contained the answer to all of the problems we have. You've talked about the CIA, drug smuggling. We know the Mossad is certainly involved in that heavily. Harari was bringing the cocaine into...
Oh, excuse me. Hey.
Yes, sir?
I'm sorry. I'm having trouble. Someone's got a motorcycle here in my house.
Any rate,
what was that?
That was our producer here having a good time. But let me say the answer. I said.
That's me. Hey.
Okay, hold on, guys. Let me get this thought out. Let me get this thought out here.
Oh, okay, Clay. Go ahead and talk.
Remember, it is my show. So I've got this. I think I've got an answer to all of that. You know, they were raising funds here to build that fence between us and Mexico. I feel like that wasn't to keep the Mexicans out. It was to keep us in. And my statement was, like Reagan, I said, Obama, tear down that wall, replace it with tables, and let's have real free trade, not NAFTA, not GATT, real free trade. Abolish all the laws against victimless crimes in this country. Give a pardon.
Absolutely.
Give a pardon to everybody that's ever, all the 40 million of you that got busted for marijuana, or cocaine, or heroin. I don't want to pay. I don't want to see taxpayers. Wait a minute. I don't want to see taxpayers paying $50,000 a year to some private corrections industry. I don't want to see them paying $50,000 a year to keep somebody in jail.
Let me jump in on what you're saying here, because it's something, you know, we don't want to think about this, that we have more people
in prison
locked up in the United States now than the gulags of the Soviet Union ever had.
That's right.
And
or China.
And they're living under circumstances in these jails and prisons in the U.S. where they face assault, gang rape, coercion of every kind. What do you eat in jail? 2 banquet pot pies a day, or bologna sandwiches on moldy bread. Am I wrong?
No.
That's how they live. They live in absolute slavery. These are people who went through a totally crooked criminal justice system.
Hold on. Let me inject in here, Gordon. You know, hey son, if you go to a trial here, you're facing 99 years, since this is Texas in 1960s. You're facing 99 years, but we can get you 7. We can get you 7 if you'll take this plea deal. Now they do that to everybody. I was offered a challenge. Now you know, if you just give us some names, we can see that your wife doesn't go to prison. We can see that we don't arrest her, and we can see that you get a break. You think I'm ever going to put anybody through what you're putting me through? To hell with you. I'll do my time. And I did my time, and I wrote a couple of novels. Wrote a couple of novels in a Texas prison. But
you know how many people at Veterans today have done prison time?
A few, I would imagine. How many?
1 out of 5 writers at Veterans today has done prison time, and many of them have been in prison for, well, we've got at least 6 people on the terror watch list. 2 of them are 4-star generals. We had one of our writers was released from prison a couple of months ago, and he's a former UN ambassador. Another one of our editors spent years in prison, though a diplomat and former White House intelligence chief. Gwyneth Todd is in hiding, and the U.S. has been trying to extradite her for years, and her crime, of course, is reporting Bush administration attempts to start a war with Iran, and of course, rather than arrest her, and this was, oddly enough, reported by Jeff Stein in the Washington Post, the Bush administration tried to assassinate her. Now, we went over this with Lee Wanta earlier in the week, but the assassinations of Ron Brown, the assassination of Howie Kwok, we have a list of dead. One of the common ways, if they can't put you in jail, they will kill you. And
how about both the Kennedys? Both 3 Kennedys have been assassinated. You know, and the first thing Johnson did on the plane back to Washington was recall that United States notes that John F. Kennedy issued. If you go against the banksters, They're going to try to kill you. Now, let me say here, if we abolished all the laws against victimless crimes, and we pardoned everybody that ever went to prison, everybody could own guns. And if I said put those tear those fences down, replace it with tables, let the Mexicans, let the Colombians, let the Peruvians bring all their cocaine, all their heroin, all their methamphetamine, lay it on a table, pay duties on it, and let Americans take it back home with them. Let them carry it back home with them. And if they want to kill themselves, by the way, nobody's ever died from smoking marijuana, but you want to kill yourself with heroin or speed or cocaine, knock yourself out. Just put we'll ring you up with a bell so we can come find the bodies. You know, and I'd rather bury them than house them in a prison and feed them and clothe them and give them medical care at the cost of $50,000 a year. Now, for treason.
You want to call that clothing and food and medical care? You know, I remember years ago there was a movie about prisons in Turkey, an American who'd been. It was called Midnight Express, probably late 70s.
Yes, sir.
And I think Brad Davis was in the film. Brad died of AIDS, by the way. But and I'm familiar with prisons in the U.S. because I helped oversee the prison system in Michigan at one point. Heaven only knows. But one of the things Walter Winchell had said about Michigan's prison system, if you want to meet the scum of the earth, come to Jackson Prison at shift change time. Walter Winchell. What that means, you know?
The guards.
You've got a good idea.
The guards are the crooked.
I'm looking at the that's right. At the Turkish prison system, now I had spent, when I saw this, several weeks going through records at Jackson Prison and working in the facility there. And I can tell you that anybody who is locked up in the state prison in southern Michigan, the 66 acres behind the wall, would have died to be in a Turkish prison, because the Turkish prison was safer. According to the movie, which was supposedly exposing the horrors of prison in Turkey, any American who saw that would have gone there in a fat minute.
All right, we're out of time here, Gordon. We're out of time here.
People who are being tortured to death. Guantanamo is nicer than the average county jail.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I just wanted to say great show and try out my new Tones Too Cool for School radio voice. It's Rick from Shaking Weight on Radio.
All right.
Hey, so great job, guys.
Are we out of time, Clay?
We're out of time, Gordon, but I want to have you back because I want to talk more about this abolishing all the laws.
We need another hour, Clay.
I know. We'll get it.
Okay,
we'll get it. Talk
guys.
to you later. I'll bring you back up next week. You got the next open slot. Thanks. We need to talk more about this. I do have answers. And go to freeamerican.com and get some of my books. Bye-bye.
Okay. Nice meeting you, Gord.